I want you to imagine that one of your buddies just invited you to a party. There's going to be food, there's going to be entertainment, and most importantly, you're not going to know a soul there. Does the idea of going to a social event and meeting new people give you anxiety? Do you struggle with making new friends and being in social situations where you have to get out of your comfort zone and meet new people? If you answered yes to either of those questions, then you're in the right place, because by the end of today's video, you're going to know exactly how to navigate social situations in a way where you're not socially awkward, overthinking, or embarrassing yourself. So back in high school, I was an incel. I was over 300 pounds, I was addicted to pornography, and as a result, I struggled with crippling social anxiety. I remember during high school, we would all eat lunch. I would eat like 2 or 3 lunches. And after eating lunch, everybody would just be funneled into this area that they called the mall. This is where people would get together, they'd hang out, they'd talk to each other for like 20 minutes before we had to go back to class. And I remember me and my brother were so awkward that we would just walk in there and we'd just beeline straight for a corner, and we'd get out our like laptops that they gave us for class, and we would just play the game Running Fred. Like, we literally had 0 friends. I wasn't even friends with the other nerds who would play video games on their computer during lunch. And if I would have known the things that I'm about to share with you in this video, it would have completely transformed my social life in high school. I would have had so many more friends. I would have actually enjoyed going to high school. And who knows, maybe I would have even dated somebody before going off to college. And I promise you, if you follow the principles that I'm about to share with you, you will level up your social skills, you're going to become more confident and more charismatic, and your social life will drastically improve. So principle number 1 is never criticize, condemn, or complain. Carnegie says that any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. For whatever reason, Carnegie talks a lot about Abraham Lincoln in this book, and I have no idea why, but he says that Abraham Lincoln came up with the quote, "Judge not that ye be not judged," even though that's a quote from the Bible, and it's actually in Matthew chapter 7, so I'm going to read that to you right now. It says, "Do not judge so that you will not be judged. For in the way that you judge, you will be judged, and by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brothers, let me take the speck out of your eye, and behold, the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." So that's from the Bible, not from Abraham Lincoln. But overall, it's really good advice, because we're not supposed to criticize other people. Because if we were in the same circumstances as those other people, we would make the exact same decisions and we would be in the same spot. I want you to imagine that you were raised in a really toxic environment growing up. And as a result of all the stress and the anxiety, you ended up forming a habit of binge eating. And as a result of that, you ended up getting up to 300 pounds, like you were obese. And I want you to imagine that because you were obese, all the people that you knew in school bullied you and called you fat A and made fun of you for being overweight. Don't you think that you would become bitter if you were in that position? Wouldn't that change your perspective and cause you to behave in the exact same way as them? And don't lie to yourself, you would do the exact same thing. We need to hold our judgment back and attempt to see things from other people's perspectives so that we can understand why they do what they do. So keep this principle in mind next time you venture out and you meet somebody new, or if you're scrolling on Twitter and you see something that goes against your political beliefs or your religious values. And I promise you, if you keep that principle in mind, you're going to become a much more empathetic and loving person. The second principle is to show a genuine interest in other people. Carnegie says to be interesting, you need to be interested. Ask questions that show that you genuinely want to understand the other person. People love to talk about themselves, and by listening, you make them feel important. Now, this is game-changing advice. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with people where I'd be like, "Hey, John, what do you do for work?" Just so I could bring the spotlight right back on myself and be like, "Well, that's cool, man. Like, what I do, like, I do this and I make this much money and I'm so successful. Like, do you like me?" Like, how cringe is that? Literally just asking other people questions so that you can just steal the spotlight back on yourself to talk about yourself, so that other people can see how successful and how charismatic and how cool you are. That is the worst way to handle a conversation. Now, using the advice that I learned in this book, every conversation that I have is about the other person, learning about their interests, their desires, their values, their goals, what they love to do, because people love talking about themselves. And every time the other person leaves a conversation with you and all you've done is talk about them and how awesome they are, the first thought that's going to come to their head whenever they think of you is, man, that guy's so charismatic. He's so awesome, dude. He just made me feel so heard and so listened to. I like that guy. Another thing you need to keep in mind is you need to remember other people's names and use them frequently in conversation. Carnegie says that another person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Remembering and using someone's name shows that you value and respect. So next time you're in a Bible study or you're in a big group of people and you're meeting somebody new, keep that in mind and use their first name frequently in conversation. Like if you're in a Bible study and some guy that you just met makes a good point, you're like, hey, John, that was a really good point. Like, I really like John's point about XYZ. Or, John, like, what are you passionate in? Like, what gets you going, man? I promise you, if you remember their name and you make them feel heard and respected, they're gonna love you forever. Another point that Carnegie makes is that other people love genuine attention. He says the royal road to a person's heart is to talk about things that they treasure most. Show genuine interest in their passions and opinions, and you'll create a connection that goes beyond superficial interactions. All people love genuine attention. And you need to keep this in mind, especially whenever you're going on a date with a girl. The thing that women love the most is 100% presence and attention in conversation. You need to ask them questions about their childhood, their passions, their goals. And you need to show them that you genuinely care by being 100% present and interested in whatever they tell you. If you're able to be present and actually remember what they tell you later on, I promise you they're not going to be able to get you out of their mind. Principle number 3 is you need to arouse in the other person an eager want. Carnegie says that the only way to influence someone is to talk in terms of what they want and show them how to get it. Understand their desires and align your proposals with their self-interest. This creates enthusiasm and cooperation. For example, if I wanted to get an overweight person to get into better shape, I wouldn't start talking about macros, dieting, and what workout routines they need to start doing. Instead, the first thing that I would ask them is how do they think that they would feel the first time that they lost all the weight and they looked themselves in the mirror and all of a sudden they could fit in their clothes better? How would they feel when they were walking down the street and they just feel so much more confident, their shoulders are back, people are giving them attention again and giving them respect? Or how they'd feel if they could finally attract a beautiful woman into their life. If you want to influence somebody, you have to speak to them about their own desires and their own wants, not your own. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is that all people have one common desire. They want to feel important. Carnegie says the desire of a feeling of importance is one of the chief distinguishing differences between mankind and the animals. Find common ground, seek agreement, and make the other person feel important by considering their needs and desires. People want to feel important. People want to be accepted. People want to be valued for their opinions and what they bring to the table. So keep this in mind whenever you're having a conversation with somebody that you're just meeting. Ask them questions about things that they love the most. Ask them questions about their desires, their career. And most importantly, make them feel appreciated. Make them feel like you genuinely care about what they're talking about and give them appreciation and encouragement for what they're doing. I promise you, if you can make people feel appreciated and acknowledged, you're going to make more friends than you've ever made in your entire life. One of the last and most important aspects of becoming more charismatic and becoming a better leader is encouraging other people to speak up. Carnegie says that the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Encourage others to express their opinions and make them feel their ideas are valuable. This stimulates cooperation and a willingness to work towards shared goals. For example, whenever you're in a Bible study or a small group, you need to call on the people who are normally quieter or to themselves. And this is going to force them to share their opinion when they otherwise would have said nothing at all. I remember me personally, whenever I was a little bit more awkward and a little bit more introverted, I would go to these Bible studies. And if the leader was bad, I would go the entire Bible study and I wouldn't say anything at all. But whenever I had a leader that was more charismatic or someone who probably read this book, they would force the people who were quieter to share their opinion to the class. I remember multiple times where I wouldn't be expected to be called on, and the leader would call on me and be like, Braden, what did you think of Matthew chapter whatever? And I'd be forced to share my opinion. And time again, I'd leave those Bible studies feeling so much more filled up, so much better about the Bible study, because I actually got to share what I thought about what we read. People want to be heard, and they want to feel like other people value their opinions. So keep this in mind next time you're in a small group or in a Bible study. Call on the people that are normally quieter, and they're going to be so grateful that you did. This book has completely changed my life. In today's video, we've only gone over 3 of the 30 effective principles for communication that can be found in this book. So if you want to learn more about how to win friends and influence people, feel free to read this book for yourself. I know if you made it this far, you're really enjoying these videos, so go ahead and watch another one. I hope that you learned something from this video. I hope that God blesses you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.